Hey, listen, today we're talking about iced coffee. Not cold brew, which takes 24 hours, but iced coffee made in a Chemex in just a few minutes here on Bean Basics. Oh, hey there. Welcome to Bean Basics with Bob and Michelle. Welcome to sunny Saugatuck, and welcome to our home and kitchen. Hey, listen, today we're talking about iced coffee. And iced coffee is different than cold brew. We've done an episode on that. And we think iced coffee tastes even a little bit better than cold brew. And you know what? It's faster to make too. We make it using the Chemex, and it happens in just minutes. Now, the rules are changing a little bit. We used to say the golden rule was 2 tablespoons for every 6 ounces of water. But for drip coffee, we're really trying to standardize that as much as possible. And so now we're saying we want to do 60 grams of coffee to 1,000 grams of water. And 1,000 grams of water is 1,000 milliliters of water, and 1,000 milliliters of water is 1 liter of water. And so those are the proportions we're going to use. Now, the only thing that's a little bit different here is we're going to put ice in the bottom of this. And so we're going to split our 1,000 milliliters into 250 milliliters or grams of ice in the bottom and 750 milliliters or grams of water poured through the top. So let's get started. And first, we have to measure off our water. And the way we're going to do that is I've got a measuring cup here, and I've got Michelle's nice Weight Watchers scale. We're going to turn it on. It's already on the gram setting versus the ounce setting. And I'm going to pour water up to the 750 milliliter mark, and Michelle's going to help me keep track of that because we want that to be 750 milliliters or 750 grams.
Approaching 7. 729.
All right.
770.
Close enough, and I say close enough, it should be 750, but we've cheated and already put water in the hot water kettle. It is exactly 750 grams, and our temperature on our coffee today is going to be about 205 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, the other thing we have to measure off is our ice, and I need to dump this water out really quickly here in the sink because we've already tared out this device, but it's going to serve to measure our 250 grams of ice and getting close.
246.
One more ice cube is going to put it over, so I'm just leave it at that and get it right in the bottom. You got one stuck. There we go. That'll do the trick. Now, the other thing we have to measure off, of course, is our coffee. We want that to be 60 grams of coffee. We're using fresh coffee today. Our dogs just came back from their walk. We've got to tear this out or zero out this container. It weighs different than the other container did. And we're going to have to come in and see that we're measuring 60 grams of whole bean coffee.
You're about halfway there.
All right. I'm getting a little messy here. Okay, now it's so close. It's by the bean almost. Oh boy!
And hey,
one more to be sure.
There you go.
No.
Oh, no. Okay,
Yeah,
I think you got
we
it.
can call that 60 grams. Perfect. And we're gonna get that in our grinder. It's a Baratza grinder. It's the Encore model, and I've got it set today at about 19. I'm going to turn that on, but really I'm not because I've pre-measured the coffee, 60 grams, and I've ground it up already. There's no reason to put you through the torture of listening to the grinder go. Okay, so we've got all of our water measured. It's in the kettle, 750 grams, 250 grams of ice down below. And now we need to, frankly, bloom our coffee first. And blooming the coffee is just the wetting of the grounds in advance. We're not really looking to extract at this point, just to get all the grounds that we can wet And you might see a little bit drip to the bottom there, and that's okay. But we're looking to get rid of all the CO2 and the nitrogen that might be trapped in these grounds and let that release. And usually we let that go for about 30 seconds, but we're gonna move forward right away here. And as you pour over your coffee grounds, this is just like, if you remember from episode 1, we did a Chemex, and we're following the same basic rules, just pouring the coffee or the water over the coffee gently, slowly, not overfilling the filter area. Now we are using a metal filter, and the reason we use a metal filter is a paper filter sometimes takes out too much of the flavor of the coffee. The metal filter never does. And then the metal filter is reusable, right? A paper filter is something you have to throw away. It goes to the landfill, and just not very ecologically sound. Okay, so as this coffee drips through, it almost immediately begins to melt the ice. And my objective here is that when we're all done, our proportions will be correct. We'll have extracted the coffee properly, but the coffee is going to be at room temperature and ready to serve right away. And that's why I say this can be done in minutes rather than the 24 hours that cold brew takes. And if you remember, we do have an episode on cold brew, and the issue with that is you have to wait 24 hours for that to be ready to use. Okay, I did want to mention that today I'm using Big B Best. This is pod Big B Best, but I got some whole bean, and I got whole bean because frankly, one of the best ways you can improve coffee is to use whole bean and grind it in the moment. It can make coffee taste magically different than pre-ground. If pre-ground is all that's available to you, that's okay too. But it's Big B Best on purpose, and it's on purpose that we're using Big B Best because, well, it has a great floral, bright taste, but it's also one of our farm direct coffees. So 30% of Big B Best has a farm direct coffee straight from Nicaragua, and it's from a farm called El Recreo. And when we use farm direct coffee, we're making sure of a couple things. We're making sure that they're treating the people on the farm right. We're making sure they're treating the environment right. And we look for some larger community mission. And in this case, in El Recreo, their larger community mission is a school for children. So the farm workers' kids never work on the farm, and they're provided education while the workers are working on the farm. And then the other really spectacular mission that they have is they have a technical school for other coffee farmers so that everybody can do better in the community in terms of quality coffee production. So we're very proud of our farm direct relationship that we have in our Big B Best. The other farm direct relationship we have, and by the way, this would work out equally well, it's roasted a little bit darker, but is our Living Hope coffee. And that relationship exists in Zambia, Africa, Angola to be specific. And really, the way that one got started was, it was an orphanage. And they took children out of the rural communities and they brought them to school and they fed them, they loved them, and they gave them an education. So we're talking about kids that get in there about the age of 6. And the reason they end up there is maybe their parents have died from malaria or AIDS or alcoholism or something like that. But they give them, as I mentioned, lots of love, lots of food, and a K through 12 education. And you know, the ultimate goal there is to get those kids off into university in Zambia itself to help prevent the brain drain going on there. Now, the Zambian coffee is 100% farm direct. So when you buy that coffee, not only are you getting a great coffee, but you're getting coffee where you know at the farm that they are treating the workers right, that we're using sustainable farming practices, and that, again, they have that larger community mission. In this case, it is the orphanage. Now, like all these communities and farmers that are invested in their community. At Living Hope, they do even much more. There's two things that they do. You know, potable water is really scarce in this part of Zambia. All the surface water is fairly contaminated. So this particular farm does have welled water, and they provide that welled water to the broad community. So other people that live in the area near the orphanage can come in and get safe potable water. And then the other thing that they do is that they provide recreation for kids that aren't on the orphanage as well. So there's a big soccer field. Soccer's really big in Africa. You know, it only takes a ball and a couple of goalposts to get it going. But they have a beautiful soccer field, and the orphanage plays against other schools in the general area around Ndola. And Michelle and I have been to both farms, and when you're in Ndola and you're seeing these kids play soccer and the smiles on their face and the cheers, it's really just a very heartwarming thing. And then in Ortega at the El Recreo farm in Nicaragua, it's also just very, very, very heartwarming to see the kids get their education while the parents are working in the fields. The kids are taught in a one-room schoolhouse, much like it used to be here in America, several grades at a time. But you know, we sat in on a couple of lessons, and the lessons that they were getting were just more than I expected, is what I could say. All right, this is about done, but I'm going to cut it short so we don't go on forever and ever. So I'm going to move this to here. And you can see most of the ice is now melted. And if I were to touch this, it's cool to the touch because the ice has cooled the brew as it came in. And if we were to set this up as a drink now, we would simply bring in a glass, load it up with some ice, as you would expect iced coffee to be. And the concentration of coffee here, I think, is perfect. Now, if you wanted to be really special, if you had any left over, you can put that in an ice cube tray and freeze it in your freezer and use coffee ice cubes instead. But of course, regular ice cubes will work out just as well. And the nice thing, because it's cool to the touch, it doesn't melt the ice that I've put in. And then I want you to try something really special. Most people don't consider it here in the United States, but just to use, instead of cream and sugar, just a lemon zest. Just squeeze that on, maybe rub it on the rim a little bit, and then you have a perfect iced coffee. Clean and delicious. I'm going to take a quick sip. Oh my God, that is so good. Well, that's it for this episode, but I want to leave you with this one note. When you love the world will love you right back. Hey, thanks for joining us. For future episodes, click the subscribe button. Bean Basics is brought to you by OneBigIslandInspace.com with 2 G's.